Horses: The Trade and Transportation Along the Silk Road, by Ava, World Cultures. The Silk Road stretched from Yan'an in the Sichuan province to Malaysia in Tibet. The ancient tea-horse road was a trade route along the Silk Road from Yunnan, one of the first tea-producing regions, to Tibet. There are many different breeds of horses seen along the Silk Roads. Horse breeding groups included the Yanshi, Nanshin, created by the Tibetans, Arabs, Tarbans, and Fergana horses. Cartloads of silk were traded for horses for the Chinese military. Though many people traded horses to the Chinese, the Fergana horses were preferred. These horses were called the heavenly horses. These animals were greatly valued by the Chinese, and they were willing to make the exchanges necessary to obtain the horses needed. Ponies called tarpans traveled most commonly along the Silk Roads. They had a large head and a distinctive mane that stood up in the summer. Their hair was shaggy to ward off the bitter cold of the steppes. They did not have a forelock. The tarpans were age-old travelers of the Eurasian steppe. Horseback riding was very popular along the Silk Roads and was commonly done instead of horse-drawn carts because of the rough terrain along the tea-horse road. Horses from Tibet, called Nanshin horses, were bred to be able to be ridden in snowy conditions. They were also bred to have large lungs to help them survive on the almost oxygen-less Tibetan plateau. These horses were desired by the Chinese for their fine limbs and hardiness. Tarpans have lived in this land since the Pleistocene era, long before man. Horses started to be used in the second millennium BCE. Chinese started trading for horses by the 11th century and continued trading throughout the Ming Dynasty and part of the way through the Qing Dynasty. After that, China didn't need horses as much as they had previously. Horse trade along the Silk Road was very popular during the Chinese Tang Dynasty, but continued until the Silk Road was no longer in use. The Tea-Horse Road was a 4-foot wide cobblestone trail through the forest. If you fell or you slipped, you would die. The Tea-Horse Road was used for trade between China and Tibet. Although the two countries didn't get along, they found themselves in a state of forced interdependence where China needed horses from Tibet and Tibet wanted tea from China. Horses contribute to cultural fusion because they were traded from Tibet to China for tea. China then had Tibetan horses, Nanshins, and Tibet had tea from China. Horses also carried important goods to be traded along the Silk Roads. Horses and tea benefit both Tibet and China. Tibet loved tea because they lived in a cold climate, and China needed horses for battle against the nomads. Nomadic movement included contact with people of other towns with whom the nomads would exchange goods. This exchange brought silk to the nomads and horses to the Chinese people. This was the beginning of the Silk Road.